I sat at the Thanksgiving table surrounded by my extended family when my older sister Karen raised her wine glass and loudly announced that I was still pathetically single at 32 while she had the perfect husband and 2 kids. The room laughed uncomfortably. My parents looked disappointed. Karen smirked, asking when I would finally grow up and find someone. I calmly set down my fork, looked directly at Karen, and said, "Actually, I am married." Complete silence fell over the table. Karen's face drained of color instantly. The dining room exploded with noise. My mother Martha dropped her serving spoon onto the hardwood floor with a clatter that made everyone jump. My father Frank pushed back from the table so hard his chair scraped against the floor, leaving marks I knew my mother would notice later. Uncle Harold choked on his wine. Aunt Patricia gasped so loudly her husband had to pat her back. Karen recovered first, letting out a nervous laugh that sounded forced even to my ears. She waved her hand dismissively, the diamond bracelet Derek had given her for their anniversary catching the light from the chandelier above us. "That is ridiculous," she said, her voice pitched higher than normal. Ross is obviously joking to save face after I called him out. "Right, Ross? Just a joke?" I pulled my phone from my pocket with steady hands, though my heart was hammering against my ribs. I had practiced this moment in my head for weeks. Ever since Emma convinced me to come to this Thanksgiving dinner, she had said I needed to try one more time with my family, that maybe the distance between us was all a misunderstanding. If only she knew. I opened my photo gallery and placed the phone in the center of the table where everyone could see. The screen displayed a photo of me in a charcoal gray suit, standing next to the most beautiful woman in the world. Emma wore a simple ivory dress that made her look like something out of a dream. We were standing under an arch, covered in white roses and greenery, at a small vineyard in upstate New York. The spring sunlight had been perfect that day, golden and warm. Her dark hair had been pulled back with small flowers woven through it. I was looking at her like she hung the moon, and she was looking at me the same way. "Not a joke," I said quietly. "I got married 6 months ago. April 23rd. My mother made a sound I had never heard before, somewhere between a sob and a gasp. She reached for the phone with shaking hands, bringing it close to her face as if she could not believe what she was seeing. "When did this happen? How could we not know? Why were we not there?" Her voice broke on the last word, and I felt my own throat tighten. This was the moment I had been dreading and anticipating in equal measure. "I sent you invitations," I said, and my voice cracked, despite my best efforts to stay calm. I called. Multiple times. I texted. I sent physical invitations to this house, to this address where I grew up, where you still live. Karen interrupted, her face flushed now instead of pale. "That is absolutely ridiculous. We never received anything. Not one thing. If you had really invited us, we would have been there." I had expected this. I swiped to a different app on my phone, one I had prepared specifically for this moment. I showed them my email account first. There were the digital invitations, sent to my parents' email address, to Karen's email, to various aunts and uncles. The sent dates were clearly visible. February 14th, March 1st, March 15th, April 1st. Then I showed them the tracking confirmations from the post office. 3 separate physical invitations mailed to my parents' house, all showing as delivered. One on February 20th, one on March 7th, one on March 28th. All of them received, signed for by someone at the residence. My father's face had gone from confused to angry. "Someone signed for these," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "Who?" I pulled up another app, this one showing text message threads. I scrolled to our family group chat, the one Karen had created 3 years ago when she got everyone on smartphones. "Look at these dates," I said, pointing to messages I had sent. April 10th. "Can't wait to see everyone at the wedding in 2 weeks. April 15th. Final head count needed for catering. Please confirm. April 18th. 5 days until the big day." But when I showed them their phones, asking them to open the family chat, those messages were not there. My messages about work promotions, about buying a house, about meeting someone special, all of them were gone. The chat history jumped from generic holiday greetings to discussions about Karen's kids' soccer games. It was like I had barely existed in that chat for 2 years. My cousin Jennifer stared at her phone in confusion. "I do not understand. Where did all your messages go?" I looked directly at Karen. "Ask my sister. She is the group administrator. She is the only one with the ability to delete messages for everyone." Karen stood up so fast her chair tipped backward. "This is insane. You are making things up. You are trying to ruin Thanksgiving because I made one little joke about your love life. One little joke, I repeated. I felt something cold settle in my chest, something that had been building for 2 years. I reached for my laptop bag, which I had brought with me despite my mother's protest that it was a family holiday and I should unplug from work. I opened it and turned the screen to face the table. I still have access to the home security camera system, I said. Remember when I installed it for you 3 years ago? Mom and Dad? You wanted to keep an eye on the house when you traveled. I helped you set it up, showed you how to check it from your phones. What does that have to do with anything? Martha asked, her voice small and afraid. I pulled up footage from February 21st, March 8th, and March 29th. All 3 videos showed the same thing, the mailman arriving. Karen, who had been visiting that day, according to the timestamps, going to the mailbox. Karen pulling out a cream-colored envelope, my handwriting visible on the front. Karen looking around to make sure no one was watching. Karen ripping the envelope in half and throwing it in the outdoor trash bin. The silence in the room was absolute. Even the grandfather clock in the corner seemed to have stopped ticking. The second video showed the same thing. The third video, Karen did not even bother hiding it. She just tossed the unopened invitation directly into the trash. But I was not done. I pulled up phone records next, ones I had requested from the phone company. Every call I made to the house phone over the past 2 years. Dozens of them. Many lasting 0 seconds, meaning they had been immediately declined or sent to voicemail. Others lasting a few seconds, just long enough for someone to pick up and hang up immediately. Then I showed them the home answering machine access logs. Karen had the code because my parents had given it to all their children in case of emergencies. The logs showed her accessing the machine remotely, dozens of times, always within hours of my calls. She deleted my voicemails, I said. Every single one. Derek, Karen's husband, had been silent this whole time. Now he turned to his wife, his face a mask I could not read. Karen? What is going on? But Karen just stood there, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Uncle Harold set down his fork carefully. Jennifer covered her mouth with her hand. Aunt Patricia looked like she might be sick. My father's voice, when he finally spoke, was the angriest I had ever heard it. Why would you do this? Why would you keep your brother's wedding from us? From your own parents? My mother was crying now, real tears streaming down her face, ruining the makeup she had applied so carefully that morning. She reached across the table toward me, and I saw how much older she looked, how the past 2 years had added lines to her face that had not been there before. I thought, she whispered, I thought you did not want us in your life anymore. You stopped calling, stopped visiting. I thought we had done something to drive you away. Those words hit me harder than anything Karen had done. All this time, my parents had thought I had abandoned them, and I had thought the same about them. I closed my laptop slowly, giving myself a moment to breathe. The turkey on the table was getting cold, the mashed potatoes congealing, but no one seemed to notice or care. The dining room that had been filled with laughter and warmth when I first arrived now felt like a courtroom. This was not the first time, I said, my voice steadier now. For the past 2 years, Karen has been systematically cutting me out of family events, systematically making sure I looked like the absent son, the unreliable brother, the disappointment. I opened my laptop again. I had spent 3 weeks preparing this presentation, going through old emails, old calendars, old text messages. Emma had sat with me through most of it, holding my hand when the memories got too painful, reminding me that the truth mattered even when it hurt. Let me show you what I mean, I said. I pulled up a timeline I had created. It started 2 years ago, almost to the day, November of 2 years prior. My college graduation party, I began, pointing to the first entry. I finished my master's degree in computer science. It took me 6 years because I was working full-time and going to school at night, but I finally did it. I was so proud. I sent everyone the date months in advance. December 15th, a Saturday afternoon, at my apartment. I clicked to show the email I had sent. There it was, sent in September, 3 months before the party. The subject line read, Finally done. Graduation party, December 15th. But Karen sent a separate email, I continued, pulling up a forwarded message that a sympathetic cousin had sent me months later. This email went to the whole family. It said the party had been rescheduled to December 10th because I had finals and could not do it on the 15th. December 10th was indeed during my finals. I was locked in a library studying for my last two exams. I had my phone off, and while I was trying to secure my future, my entire family gathered at my apartment building, confused when I was not there, eventually going to Karen's house instead, where she had prepared a backup dinner party. For her. My mother's hand went to her throat. But you told us you could not make the original date. You said you were too busy. I never said that, Mom. Check your emails. Check your texts. I sent the December 15th date. Karen changed it. Jennifer spoke up, her voice hesitant. I remember that. I thought it was weird that Ross would schedule his own party during finals. But Karen said, you were really disorganized that semester. That you were struggling. I was not struggling. I graduated with a 3.9 grade point average. I showed them my diploma on the screen, the Latin honors clearly visible. Next entry, I said, clicking forward. My promotion celebration. I got promoted to senior software engineer 18 months ago. It was a huge deal. 30% pay increase. My own team to lead. I invited everyone to dinner at that steakhouse downtown, the one Dad always liked. Sent the invitation 6 weeks in advance. The email was there, dated and clear. March 10th, 6 o'clock in the evening, at Riverside Steakhouse. But Karen told everyone I had canceled, I said. Told them I had decided to celebrate with work friends instead. That I said family did not need to come. I never said that, I continued, my voice getting harder. I waited at that restaurant for 2 hours. I had reserved a private room for 20 people. I kept calling Mom and Dad, kept texting, asking where everyone was. No one answered. Finally, the manager felt so bad for me that he gave me the meal for free. I sat in that empty room surrounded by 20 place settings and ate a steak by myself. My father's face had gone red, then white, then red again. His hands were clenched into fists on the table. Derek reached over and put his hand on his kids' shoulders. The two children who had been allowed to eat at the kids' table in the other room and were now peeking around the corner, sensing something was wrong. I kept clicking through my timeline. My 30th birthday party that Karen told everyone was canceled when it was not. The time I invited everyone to my new house, and Karen said I had decided to do a work event instead. The Christmas where I showed up, and everyone seemed surprised to see me because Karen had told them I was traveling for work. Easter dinner where I arrived to find they had not set a place for me because Karen said I had confirmed I could not make it. Each event, I had documentation. Each lie, I had proof. By the time I finished, my timeline showed 23 separate occasions over 2 years where Karen had either excluded me, lied about my availability, or manipulated the family's perception of me. My mother was sobbing openly now, her sister Patricia holding her. My father looked like he wanted to break something. Uncle Harold kept shaking his head in disbelief. But it was my next words that really broke the room. I spent 2 years thinking you all did not care about me anymore, I said. And my voice finally broke. 2 years thinking I was not good enough, not important enough. I started seeing a therapist because I thought something was wrong with me. Why else would my own family ghost me? What had I done to deserve being forgotten? I met Emma during the worst of it. I was at a hospital fundraiser, donating some old computers from my company. She was there as one of the pediatric nurses. I was sitting alone in the corner because I did not really know anyone, and she came over and asked if I was okay. I must have looked as miserable as I felt. I paused, remembering that night. Emma, in her blue scrubs, because she had come straight from a shift, her hair in a ponytail, exhausted but still taking the time to check on a stranger who looked sad. She saved me, I said simply. She became my family when I thought I did not have one anymore. She is the only reason I am still here. Still trying. Still hoping that maybe there was some explanation for why you all disappeared from my life. And there was an explanation. I finished. Looking at Karen, it just was not the one I thought. My father finally found his voice. Why? He demanded, staring at Karen. Why would you do this to your own brother? What could he possibly have done to deserve this? Karen had been silent through all of this, standing rigid by her chair. Now she slowly sat back down, and I saw her hands were shaking. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. He did not do anything, she said. Then why? My mother cried out. Why would you hurt him like this? Hurt us like this? Karen looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw something in her eyes I had never seen before. It was not anger or hatred. It was something uglier. Because he was winning, she said. The words hung in the air like smoke. He got the scholarship to the good college, Karen continued, her voice getting stronger, more bitter. He got the job at the tech company right out of undergrad. He got promoted twice in 5 years. He bought a house, a real house, before he turned 30. He makes, what, 6 figures now? More? She laughed, but it was not a happy sound. I did everything right. I got married young like mom and dad wanted. I had the kids. I stayed close to home. I have the suburban life, the minivan, the PTA meetings. And you know what I got? A job in retail management that pays $40,000 a year. A husband who works so much I barely see him. A mortgage we can barely afford. Derek stiffened beside her, but she kept going. And every family gathering, every holiday, every dinner, what did everyone talk about? Ross' new promotion, Ross' new car, Ross' smart investments, how proud they were of Ross, how successful Ross was. It was like I was invisible. Like everything I did, everything I sacrificed, did not matter because I did not have a fancy tech job and a 6-figure salary. So when you started pulling away, Karen said, looking at me, when you got busy with work and started missing a few things, I saw an opportunity. If you were not here, you could not outshine me. If you were not here, maybe mom and dad would remember they had another child. Maybe I could be the favorite for once. Is that what you thought? My mother asked, horrified. That we loved Ross more because of his job? Karen shrugged. Actions speak louder than words, Mom. You have Ross graduation photos displayed in the living room. Not mine. When people ask how your kids are doing, you start with Ross accomplishments. I am always the afterthought. That is because you are here all the time, my father exploded. We see you twice a week. We see the grandkids constantly. Ross. We thought he did not want to see us anymore. Of course we talked about him more because we missed him. But Karen was not listening. She was staring at the table, at the ruined Thanksgiving dinner, at the wreckage of what she had done. And then I realized there was more. I remembered something my father had mentioned in passing months ago, something about the family cabin in Vermont. This is about the cabin too, is it not? I asked quietly. Karen's head snapped up. Derek looked confused. What cabin? He asked. The family vacation cabin, my mother explained, her voice hollow. In Vermont, it has been in the family for 3 generations. It needs to be passed down to one of the children. We had not decided yet, but we were leaning toward Karen because she has the kids and they love going there in summer. But that was before, my father added grimly, when we thought Ross did not care about the family anymore. When Karen convinced us he wanted nothing to do with family traditions, the cabin was worth at least $400,000, maybe more. It was prime real estate, right on a lake, updated and maintained over the years. But more than the money, it represented family legacy, generations of summers, and memories. Karen had been positioning herself to inherit it by making me look like the prodigal son who abandoned his family. I stood up slowly, my chair scraping against the floor. Emma was supposed to meet me after dinner. We had planned it this way. I had told her to wait at the coffee shop 2 blocks away, to give me time to have this conversation with my family. Now I needed her here. I needed them to meet her, to see what they had missed. I pulled out my phone and texted, "Come now. It's time." I looked around the table at my family. Some of them looked ashamed. Some looked angry. Some just looked confused, like they were trying to piece together how they had missed all of this happening right under their noses. There is more, I said, but my wife should be here for the rest of this conversation. She deserves to tell her side too. The doorbell rang exactly 3 minutes later. Before I could move toward the door, Uncle Harold cleared his throat. The sound cut through the tense silence like a knife. He had been sitting quietly through most of this, nursing his wine, but now he set the glass down with a heavy thunk. "I need to say something," he announced. His face was flushed. Whether from wine or shame, I could not tell. "Before Emma gets here, there is something you all need to know. Something I should have said months ago." All eyes turned to him. My father leaned forward. "What are you talking about, Harold?" Uncle Harold could not meet my eyes. 3 months ago, maybe 4, Karen called me. Said she needed to talk about a family matter. We met for coffee. He paused, rubbing his face with both hands. She told me she had seen Ross with a woman. Made it sound like it was some kind of secret relationship, something complicated. She said Ross would be embarrassed if the family knew, that it might be an affair or something inappropriate. She asked me to keep quiet about it if anyone mentioned seeing Ross around town with someone. My stomach dropped. I had taken Emma to a farmer's market near where Uncle Harold lived. It had been last summer, over a year ago. We had been dating for about 6 months then. I had hoped we might run into family, that it could be a casual introduction, but we had not seen anyone we knew. Or so I thought. You saw us? I asked. Uncle Harold nodded miserably. At the farmer's market. Last July, you were with a pretty woman, dark hair. You looked happy. Happier than I had seen you in years. I almost came over to say hello, but then I remembered what Karen had said. I thought maybe you were having an affair, or the woman was married, or something scandalous. So I stayed away. I am so sorry, Ross. I should have just asked you directly. But he was not done. Cousin Jennifer shifted uncomfortably in her seat, and Uncle Harold gestured to her. Tell them, he said. Jennifer bit her lip. She was 26, closer to my age than Karen's, and we had been close growing up. She looked at me with guilt written all across her face. Karen called me too, Jennifer admitted. About 8 months ago. She said Ross was dating someone unstable. Those were her exact words, unstable. She said the woman had some kind of mental health issues, and that Ross was in over his head but too proud to admit it. She asked me not to bring it up or encourage the relationship if I heard about it. Said she was worried about you, but did not want to embarrass you by making it a family discussion. I felt sick. Emma had anxiety. Yes. She had told me about it on our 4th date, nervous that I would judge her for it. She managed it well with therapy and medication. It was part of who she was, and I loved all of her. But Karen had taken that private information she must have gotten by snooping somehow, and weaponized it. How did you know about Emma's anxiety? I asked Karen coldly. Karen would not look at me. I might have overheard you on the phone once when I was at your house, she mumbled. You went through my things, I said. It was not a question. My mother looked like she might faint. Patricia, my father's sister, spoke up next. Her voice was shaky. I got an email, she said, from Karen, about 6 months ago. It was long, several paragraphs. She said Ross was going through some kind of crisis, that he was making poor decisions and pulling away from the family. She suggested we give him space, not push him to come to family events. She said he needed time to work through whatever he was dealing with, and that our pressure might make it worse. She pulled out her phone, scrolled through her email, and showed us. There it was, dated 5 months ago. The email was carefully written, concerned and loving in tone. It made Karen sound like the caring sister looking out for her troubled brother. It made me sound like I was falling apart. I was not falling apart. I was in love. I was happy. I was planning a wedding. How many of you got messages like this? I asked the table. Raise your hands. 7 hands went up. 7 people at this table had been fed lies about me, had been manipulated into excluding me, into thinking they were helping me by staying away. Karen had not just hidden my wedding, she had poisoned my entire family against me. Slowly and systematically, for 2 years. Derek had been getting quieter and quieter beside his wife. Now he stood up abruptly, his chair scraping loud in the silent room. I need to talk to Karen, he said. His voice was tight, controlled, privately. Right now. Karen reached for his hand. Derek, please, we can talk about this later. Let's just get through dinner and… No, Derek interrupted. His jaw was clenched so hard I could see the muscle jumping. We need to talk right now. There is something I need to know. What? Karen asked, and for the first time, she looked genuinely afraid. 6 months ago, Derek said slowly. You told me you needed to go visit your friend Sarah for the weekend. You said she was going through a hard time, needed support. You were gone for 3 days, April 21st through April 23rd, the wedding weekend. My heart started pounding. Where were you really? Derek asked. And his voice was dangerous now, the voice of a man who already knew the answer but needed to hear it said out loud. I was with Sarah, Karen said, but her voice wavered. Derek pulled out his own phone. I called Sarah last week, he said. Just checking in, being friendly. Asked how she was doing, if she had recovered from whatever she was going through in April. You know what she told me? She said she did not know what I was talking about. Said April was a great month for her. She went on a cruise with her husband. The blood drained from Karen's face. I pulled up my wedding photos on my phone, the ones I had not shown the family yet. I scrolled through until I found it. The photo I had discovered last week when I was preparing for today. It was a shot Emma's friend had taken of the crowd outside the venue before the ceremony. Guests mingling, talking, laughing. And across the street, barely visible, a car parked at the curb, a silver Honda Pilot. I zoomed in. The image was grainy when enlarged, but you could make out a figure in the driver's seat. I held up the phone. "Is this your car, Karen?" She did not answer. She did not need to. Derek's face told us everything. "You were there," I said, and my voice was shaking now. "You were at my wedding. You sat in your car across the street and watched. You watched Emma and me get married. You watched our friends and the few colleagues I had invited celebrate with us. You watched us be happy without our family there. Family that had no idea this was even happening because you made sure of that. And you did nothing. You did not come in. You did not confess. You just watched." The room was utterly silent. Even the children had stopped making noise in the other room, as if they could sense the gravity of what was happening. Karen's face crumpled. She began to cry, harsh, ugly sobs that shook her whole body. "Yes," she gasped out. "Yes, I was there. I saw the invitation I had thrown away, haunting me. I could not stop thinking about it. I drove up that morning, told Derek I was going to Sarah's. I sat in that car for 3 hours. I watched everyone arrive. I watched you in your suit, looking so happy. I watched your wife, so beautiful, so clearly in love with you. Why?" my mother whispered. "Why were you there if you were the one who kept us away?" "I do not know," Karen sobbed. "I thought maybe I would go in. Maybe I would confess and beg for forgiveness. But then, I saw how happy you looked, Ross, and I could not do it. I had gone too far. I had done something unforgivable, so I just sat there. I watched you get married, watched you have this beautiful day, and then I drove home and pretended I had been with Sarah all weekend." Derek was staring at his wife like he had never seen her before. "You lied to me," he said flatly. "About where you were. About what you were doing. For 6 months, you have been lying to me." "I am sorry," Karen said, reaching for him. He stepped back. "Do not touch me. I need to think. I need to figure out who I am married to because, right now, I have no idea." He looked at my parents. "Can the kids stay here tonight? I need to take Karen home. We need to talk. A lot." "Of course," my mother said immediately. "Of course they can stay." Derek walked over to the other room where the children were. I heard him speaking softly to them, telling them Mommy and Daddy needed to talk about grown-up things, that they would stay with Grandma and Grandpa tonight and have a sleepover. The kids, 6 and 8 years old, cheered at the unexpected treat, oblivious to the fact that their parents' marriage might be ending in the next room. Karen gathered her purse with shaking hands. She did not look at anyone. Derek put his hand on her elbow, not gentle but not rough, and guided her toward the door. They were halfway there when the doorbell rang. I walked to the door, my legs feeling steadier than I expected. Behind me, I could hear Karen and Derek frozen in the entryway, the rest of my family still seated at the ruined dinner table. I opened the door, and there she was. Emma stood on the porch in a deep green dress that brought out her eyes, her dark hair loose around her shoulders. She had been nervous when we planned this, worried about meeting my family under such difficult circumstances. But now, her face was calm, resolved. She had been my rock through 2 years of confusion and pain. She would be my rock through this too. "That is my wife," I said to the room, and I could not keep the pride out of my voice. Emma stepped inside, taking in the scene. She saw me first, and her face softened. Then she saw my mother crying, my father's angry expression, Karen and Derek by the door looking like they wanted to disappear into the wallpaper. "I am Emma," she said simply, her voice warm despite the tension in the room. "I wish we were meeting under better circumstances." My mother moved first. She practically ran across the room, and before Emma could react, Martha wrapped her in a tight hug. "I am so sorry," my mother sobbed into Emma's shoulder. "I am so sorry we were not there. I am so sorry we did not know you existed. I am so sorry." Emma hugged her back, and I saw tears in her eyes too. "It is okay," Emma said softly. "I understand now. We both understand now." My father approached more slowly, but his emotion was just as raw. He held out his hand to shake Emma's, but she pulled him into a hug instead. Frank, normally reserved and stoic, hugged his daughter-in-law for the first time and cried on her shoulder. I watched my wife handle my family with grace I could never have managed. She hugged Aunt Patricia. She shook Uncle Harold's hand and told him it was not his fault. That he had been manipulated too. She met each family member with warmth and forgiveness they probably did not deserve yet, but that she gave anyway because that was who she was. Finally, she turned to Karen and Derek, still standing awkwardly by the door. "I think you are Karen," Emma said. Her voice was not warm now, but it was not cruel either. Just neutral, observing. "Ross told me a lot about you. I always wanted to meet his sister." The past tense hung in the air. Wanted. Past tense. Karen could not meet Emma's eyes. "I am sorry," she whispered. "I am so sorry for what I did to you, to both of you." Emma nodded slowly. "I think you are sorry you got caught. I am not sure you would be sorry otherwise." The words were soft, but they hit like a hammer. Derek actually flinched. Emma came to stand beside me, taking my hand. Her touch grounded me, reminded me why we were here. My family needed to know the truth. All of it. "I thought Ross' family did not approve of me," Emma said to the room. "For 6 months before the wedding, Ross would make excuses for why I had not met anyone yet. He said you were all busy, that timing never worked out. I believed him because I had no reason not to. After the wedding, when none of you came, I thought maybe there was something about me you did not like. Maybe I was not good enough for your family. Maybe my background was not right, or my job was not impressive enough. Or maybe you had someone else in mind for Ross." "No," my mother said immediately. "No, sweetheart, none of that. We did not even know you existed. If we had known." "I know that now," Emma said. "But for 6 months, I thought I was the problem." It hurt. I kept asking Ross what I had done wrong, why his family did not want to meet me. He would always change the subject or make excuses. It put a strain on us that should never have been there. She looked at Karen then. Really looked at her. "Last month," Emma continued, "I received a Facebook message from an account I did not recognize. The profile had no photo, no information. Obviously fake. The message said Ross was cheating on me. It included screenshots of what looked like dating app profiles, with Ross photos on them. Profiles on apps like Tinder and Bumble and Hinge." My mother gasped. My father's face went dark with anger again. "The profiles looked real," Emma said. "They had Ross photos. Photos I recognized from before we met. They had information about him that was accurate, his age, his job, his interests. The message said he had been using these apps for months, that someone thought I should know my husband was not faithful." Emma pulled out her phone and showed the Facebook message to the family. People passed the phone around, each one looking more horrified than the last. "I almost believed it," Emma admitted, and her voice cracked for the first time. "For about an hour, I sat in our living room and stared at those screenshots and thought my marriage was over, thought the man I loved had been lying to me. But then I looked at Ross, really looked at him, at the man who made me coffee every morning, who texted me terrible jokes throughout the day to make me smile, who held me when I had bad days at the hospital. And I could not believe he would do that to me." She squeezed my hand, so I showed him the message. We looked at the profiles together. Ross had no idea they existed. We reported them to the dating apps immediately. They were taken down within a few days for being fake. But we never found out who created them, until now. Derek, who had been standing silent and rigid, suddenly moved. He walked over to Emma. "May I see your phone?" he asked, his voice carefully controlled. Emma handed it to him. Derek worked in IT at a financial company. He knew his way around technology better than most people. He opened the Facebook message, clicked on the fake account that had sent it, started digging into whatever metadata or traces were still accessible. His face went pale as he worked, then red, then pale again. He looked up at his wife, and the expression on his face was one of complete betrayal. "This account was created from our home IP address," he said, his voice flat. "On October 15th, at 2:30 in the afternoon, I was at work. The kids were at school. Only Karen had been home. The dating profiles were created from our home network, too," Derek continued, his voice getting quieter and more dangerous with each word. "Over a period of 3 weeks in September, multiple profiles, multiple apps. Someone spent hours creating these, gathering photos, writing descriptions designed to make Ross look like a cheater." He turned to Karen. "You tried to destroy his marriage. You tried to take away the one good thing he had left after you had already taken his family from him." "It was not like that," Karen tried to say. "Then what was it like?" Derek demanded, his voice finally rising. Explain it to me. Make me understand how the woman I married could do something like this. But Karen had no answer. Or if she did, she could not voice it. She just stood there, tears streaming down her face, her entire life falling apart around her. Derek looked at me and Emma. I am so sorry, he said. I had no idea. I would never have allowed this if I had known. We know, Emma said gently. This is not your fault. Derek nodded once, then turned to my parents. I am going to take Karen home now. We have a lot to discuss. I will bring the kids back tomorrow to get their things. They should not be around this right now. He looked at his wife. Let's go. Karen followed him like a zombie, her face blank with shock. The door closed behind them with a soft click that sounded like a gunshot in the quiet room. No one spoke for a long moment. Then Aunt Patricia started to clear dishes from the table, needing something to do with her hands. Jennifer joined her. Uncle Harold poured himself another glass of wine. My father pulled out a chair for Emma at the table. Please, he said. Sit. Tell us about yourself. Tell us everything. We have 2 years to catch up on. And so we did. Emma and I sat at that Thanksgiving table, surrounded by cold turkey and uneaten sides, and we told our story the way it should have been told months ago, years ago. My father disappeared into his study while Emma was describing how we met at the hospital fundraiser, how I had been sitting alone in the corner, looking lost. When he came back, he was carrying a folder and his laptop, and his face was grim. Before we go any further, Frank said, setting the laptop on the table, there is something your mother and I need to address. Something we need to make right. My mother looked up from where she had been holding Emma's hand, listening to stories about our first date. Her expression shifted from curiosity to understanding to something that looked like relief. 3 months ago, my father began. Karen came to us with concerns about Ross. She said he had been talking about the family cabin in Vermont, about how it needed too much maintenance, how it was a money drain. She said he had mentioned wanting to sell it, use the money for investments. I felt my chest tighten. The cabin, the place where my grandparents had taken us every summer, where I learned to fish with my grandfather, where my grandmother taught me to make her famous blueberry pancakes, where I had first brought Emma 2 summers ago, before everything fell apart with my family, when I still thought I might casually run into them there and introduce the woman I was falling in love with. I never said that, I told my father. I love that cabin. I have never wanted to sell it. I know that now, Frank said heavily. But at the time, Karen was convincing. She said you had been stressed about money, about the mortgage on your house, about wanting to upgrade your car. She made it sound like you were seeing the cabin as just another asset to liquidate. My house was paid off last year. I drive a 10-year-old Honda. I had no financial stress whatsoever. Karen offered to take full responsibility for the cabin, my mother continued. Said she and Derek and the kids would maintain it. Spend summers there, keep it in the family the way it was meant to be kept. She made it sound like she was doing us a favor, taking this burden off Ross, who did not want it anymore. We were going to update our will, my father said quietly. Give the cabin to Karen. We had an appointment with the lawyer scheduled for next month. But something stopped us, Martha added. A week ago, we received an email. Frank opened his laptop and turned it so Emma and I could see. It was from an anonymous Gmail account. Nothing identifying in the username. Just a string of random numbers and letters. But the content made my blood run cold. The email contained screenshots of text messages between Karen and someone identified only as Jay. The text discussed the Ross problem. They talked about how to secure the inheritance. They mentioned the cabin specifically, discussing its value, how much it could be worth if sold. There were messages about keeping Ross isolated, about making sure he looked unreliable to the family. Who is Jay? I asked, though part of me already suspected. Jennifer shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Aunt Patricia noticed. Jennifer, do you know something? Jennifer looked miserable. Jay is Jason. Jason Torres, Karen's boyfriend from college. Derek's boyfriend from college, Emma corrected quietly. Before she met Derek, the table went silent again. This was a new revelation, even to me. They reconnected on social media, Jennifer said reluctantly. About 2 years ago, I saw them having coffee together a few times. Karen said it was innocent, just old friends catching up. She asked me not to mention it to Derek because he was the jealous type and would not understand. Derek is not the jealous type, I said flatly. That was a lie, too. Jennifer nodded. I realize that now. I should have said something. I should have told someone. But Karen is my cousin, and I thought I was protecting her privacy. I did not know what she was doing to you, Ross. I swear. So Karen was not just isolating me out of jealousy, I said slowly, piecing it together. She had help. She had someone encouraging her, plotting with her. My father nodded grimly. These text messages go back 18 months. They talk about you like you are an obstacle to be removed. They discuss how to make you look bad to us, how to secure Karen's position as the primary heir. It is about money, my mother said, her voice breaking. Our daughter tried to destroy her brother's relationship with his family for money and property. Emma's hand tightened on mine. Who sent you the email? She asked my parents. Who exposed Karen? We do not know, Martha admitted. We thought maybe Derek had found out and wanted to alert us without confronting Karen directly. But we were not sure. Emma pulled out her own phone. After the fake dating profiles, after those Facebook messages trying to convince me Ross was cheating, I had a friend help me. She works in IT security at the hospital. She helped me trace some of the digital footprints. Emma pulled up notes on her phone, showed us her research. We found connections between the fake dating accounts and a user named jtorres87. We found that same username associated with comments on Ross' professional social media, small negative comments that could hurt his reputation. We traced IP addresses of the anonymous harassment back to a coffee shop in Stamford, the same coffee shop where Jennifer saw Karen and Jason meeting. My IT friend did some more digging, Emma continued. She found Jason's social media. Found out he got engaged 4 months ago to a woman named Amanda. Found out Amanda works in law enforcement. Actually, she is a paralegal at a prosecutor's office. Where is this going? Uncle Harold asked. Emma smiled, but it was not a happy smile. I think Jason got cold feet. I think he realized what he and Karen were doing could have legal consequences. Harassment, fraud, maybe more. I think either his conscience caught up with him or his new fiancée found out what he was involved in and made him stop. Either way, I think Jason is the one who sent that email to Ross' parents. I think he wanted out, and this was his way of ending it without getting directly implicated. Can you prove that? My father asked. Not definitively, Emma admitted. But the circumstantial evidence is strong, and honestly, does it matter who sent it? What matters is that the truth came out before you changed your will, before Karen succeeded in what she was trying to do. My father closed the laptop and looked at me. The cabin is yours, Ross. It always should have been yours. Your grandfather specifically told me before he died that he wanted you to have it. You were the one who loved it most. You were the one who appreciated it. He reached into the folder he had brought, pulled out a set of keys. These are yours. The deed will be transferred to your name. This is not negotiable. This is not up for discussion. The cabin is yours. Take Emma there. Make new memories. Eventually, when you have children, take them there. Keep the family traditions alive the way they were meant to be kept. I took the keys with shaking hands. The metal was warm from my father's pocket. I remembered the weight of these keys from childhood, the excitement I always felt when Dad would hand them to me and let me unlock the cabin door at the start of summer. Thank you, I managed to say. There is more, Martha said. She looked at Emma. We want to set up a trust fund. For your children, when you have them, whether they are biological or adopted, we do not care. We want to make sure they are taken care of. We want to make sure you both know that you are part of this family now, truly part of it, and we will do better. We will be better. Emma's eyes filled with tears. Thank you, she whispered. That means more than you know. Patricia spoke up. I want to say something too. We all failed you, Ross. All of us. We believed Karen's lies too easily. We did not question why you suddenly became distant. We did not push hard enough to stay in contact. We let you slip away because it was easier than confronting the situation. That is on all of us, not just Karen. Around the table, heads nodded. Uncle Harold, Jennifer, everyone acknowledging their part in my isolation, intentional or not. The question now, my father said, is what do we do about Karen? She is still our daughter, still a mother to our grandchildren. How do we move forward from this? That is not for me to decide, I said. I meant it. Karen needs professional help. Real help, not just an apology. She needs to face what she has done, why she did it. Maybe she can rebuild with Derek, maybe not. But that is between them. As for our relationship, I do not know. Not now. Maybe not for a long time. I understand, my mother said quietly. Whatever you need, whatever time you need, we will respect that. The grandfather clock in the corner chimed. It was nearly 8 o'clock. We had been in that dining room for hours, dismantling lies and rebuilding truths. The Thanksgiving turkey had been abandoned, but no one seemed to care about food anymore. Emma stood up. I think Ross and I should go home now. This has been a lot for everyone. You all need time to process. My mother started to protest, then nodded. You are right. But please, will you come back? Soon? For a real dinner? A real celebration? Emma looked at me. I nodded. We will, Emma promised. We will come back. As we gathered our things to leave, Jennifer approached me hesitantly. Ross, I really am sorry. I should have told you about Karen and Jason. I looked at my cousin, saw the genuine remorse on her face. You were lied to like everyone else. Just do me a favor. If you ever see something like this happening again, to anyone, speak up. Do not stay silent, because it is easier. She nodded, wiping her eyes. I promise. Emma and I walked to the door, my family following. There were hugs this time, real ones. Promises to call, to visit, to make up for lost time. My father held me for a long moment, whispered that he loved me, that he was proud of me, that he was sorry he had let me down. As Emma and I walked to our car, I felt lighter than I had in 2 years. The truth was out. My family knew what had happened. Justice, in its way, had been served. Emma took my hand as we drove away. How do you feel? She asked. I thought about it. Sad, angry, relieved, hopeful, all of it at once. She nodded. That sounds about right. We drove in comfortable silence for a while. Then Emma said, What do you want to do about Thanksgiving? Our dinner is probably still in the oven at home. I smiled. Let's go home. Let's eat leftovers on the couch. Let's be thankful for what we have, each other. Sounds perfect, Emma said. And it was. 2 days after Thanksgiving, my father called me. Karen had checked herself into an intensive outpatient therapy program. Derek had moved into a hotel and was consulting with a divorce lawyer, though he had not filed anything yet. The kids were staying primarily with my parents, while Karen and Derek figured things out. 1 week after Thanksgiving, Derek called me directly. We had never been particularly close, but I respected him. He was a good father, a hard worker, and until all this, I had thought he was a good husband to my sister. Ross, he said when I answered. His voice sounded exhausted. I need you to know that I had no idea about any of it. I know, I told him. I believe you. There was a long pause. I have been going through our financials, our accounts, our communications. Karen had a separate credit card I did not know about. She used it for meeting Jason, for the coffee shops, for gas when she drove to your wedding. She hid it well. I am sorry you are going through this, I said, and meant it. I am probably going to divorce her, Derek continued. I do not know how to come back from this level of deception, but I want you to know that I will make sure my kids know their uncle. I will bring them to family events. They should not lose you because of what their mother did. Thank you, I said. That means a lot. 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, my mother organized a small family dinner, just my parents, Emma, and me. No extended family, no drama. We ate lasagna and talked about normal things. My job, Emma's work at the hospital, plans for Christmas. It was the most normal family dinner I had had in years. After dinner, my father asked if Emma and I would consider having a vow renewal ceremony. Nothing big, he said. Just family. A chance for us to be there, to celebrate you properly. Emma and I talked about it that night at home. What do you think? I asked her. I think your family deserves a chance to celebrate with us, she said. If you want to do it, I am okay with it. So we planned it. A small ceremony at the Vermont cabin in the spring. Just immediate family, no extended relatives yet. We were taking things slowly, rebuilding trust step by step. 1 month after Thanksgiving, Karen sent me a letter. Not an email, not a text, but a handwritten letter in the mail. 3 pages long. She did not make excuses. She did not ask for forgiveness. She simply acknowledged, in painful detail, everything she had done and why. The jealousy that had consumed her, the resentment she had nursed for years, the way she had let it poison her into someone she did not recognize. She talked about the therapy she was doing, the work she was putting in to understand herself and change. At the end, she wrote, "You deserved a better sister. You deserved a family who showed up for you. I stole that from you, and I can never give it back. I do not expect you to forgive me. I do not expect a relationship with you. I just want you to know that I see what I did. I own it, and I am working every day to become someone who would never do that again. Not for you, because I have lost that right, but for my kids. They deserve a mother who is whole and healthy. I am trying to become that person." I kept the letter. I did not respond, but I kept it. 6 weeks after Thanksgiving, Derek filed for divorce. The papers cited irreconcilable differences. He asked for primary custody of the children with visitation rights for Karen. She did not contest it. 2 months after Thanksgiving, my extended family had a meeting without me. They decided that Karen would not be invited to family gatherings for the foreseeable future. It was not a punishment, they said, but a boundary. They needed to rebuild relationships with me and Emma first. Karen understood, or at least, she accepted it. 3 months after Thanksgiving, Emma and I drove to the Vermont cabin for the first time together since becoming officially recognized as married by my family. It was February. Snow covering everything. The lake frozen solid. We brought groceries and firewood and planned to stay the whole weekend. My father had made sure the cabin was fully stocked and winterized. There were fresh linens on the beds, logs stacked by the fireplace, even a bottle of champagne in the fridge with a note, "To new beginnings. Love, Mom and Dad." We spent the weekend cooking together, reading by the fire, taking walks in the snow. We talked about our future, about maybe having kids someday, about how we wanted to bring them to this cabin, teach them to fish in the summer and ski in the winter, the way I had learned from my grandparents. On our last evening there, as we sat by the fire, Emma asked me, "Do you think you will ever forgive Karen?" "I do not know," I admitted. "Maybe someday. But not yet. She has to do the work first, has to show real change. And even then, I do not know if we will ever have a real relationship again." "That is fair," Emma said. "You do not owe her forgiveness just because she is your sister." "My mother calls me every few days now," I told Emma, "just to check in. She sends me recipes she thinks I would like. She asks about you, about work, about our plans. She is trying so hard." Emma smiled. "Your mom is sweet. I like her. My father and I went hiking last weekend," I continued. "He told me he was proud of me for standing up for myself, for not backing down even when it was hard. He said he wished he had taught me to do that sooner, but he is glad I learned it." "You had to learn it on your own," Emma said. "That is what made it real." She was right. Everything I had gone through, as painful as it was, had taught me things I needed to know. How to set boundaries, how to demand respect, how to recognize when people were not treating me the way I deserved to be treated, how to walk away from toxicity, even when it came from family. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Jennifer, asking if Emma and I wanted to meet for coffee next week. She had been checking in regularly, trying to rebuild our cousin relationship. Another text came in. This one, from Uncle Harold. He had sent a photo of a fish he caught, joking that he was going to beat my record from childhood. My family, slowly and imperfectly, was becoming my family again. Not the family I had before, not the one I thought I had lost. Something new, something built on truth instead of assumptions, on choice instead of obligation. 4 months after that terrible Thanksgiving, Emma and I stood in the Vermont cabin on a sunny April afternoon. My parents were there, Emma's parents, who I had met 2 months earlier, and who were kind and warm and welcoming. Derek and his kids, my niece and nephew, who were running around the lakeshore throwing rocks in the water. Uncle Harold, Aunt Patricia, Jennifer, and a handful of other family members who had proven they were committed to doing better. Karen was not there. She was not invited, and no one questioned it. She was still in therapy, still doing her work. Derek said she was making progress, becoming more self-aware, taking responsibility. Maybe someday she would be ready to be part of the family again. Maybe someday I would be ready to let her. But not today. An officiant, a friend of Emma's from the hospital, stood before us. Emma wore the same ivory dress from our original wedding. I wore the same charcoal suit. We had decided to keep everything the same, to honor the day we actually got married, the day that had been perfect even without my family there. But this time, My mother was crying happy tears in the front row. My father was recording everything on his phone, determined not to miss a single moment. Emma's parents were holding hands, smiling at us. The kids were being mostly well-behaved, dressed in their nice clothes, fascinated by the ceremony. Emma and I had already said our vows once. We had already made our promises, so this time we kept it simple. I promise to keep choosing you, I said, holding Emma's hands. Every day, in front of everyone who matters to us. I promise to be your family, Emma said. Your home, your safe place. Always. We kissed as everyone cheered. My mother sobbed louder. My father whistled. The kids yelled ew and then laughed. Afterward, we had a barbecue by the lake. Nothing fancy, just burgers and hot dogs and potato salad. My father grilled. My mother fussed over everyone. Emma's mom taught my mom her secret coleslaw recipe. The kids played soccer in the grass. Derek and I stood by the grill, drinking beers, and he told me about his kids' latest school adventures. It was not a fairy tale ending. It was better. It was real. As the sun started to set over the lake, turning the water gold and orange, Emma came to stand beside me. She leaned her head on my shoulder. Happy? She asked. Yes, I said. I really am. 6 months passed. Spring turned to summer, and Emma and I made the Vermont cabin our second home. We went there almost every other weekend, sometimes with my parents, sometimes alone, sometimes with friends. We were slowly filling it with new memories, layering them over the old ones like a palimpsest of happiness. Karen completed her intensive therapy program and moved into a small apartment near my parents' house. Derek went through with the divorce, and it was finalized in July. They settled on shared custody, with Karen seeing the kids every weekend and one evening during the week. By all accounts, she was doing better. My mother said Karen seemed quieter, more thoughtful, less concerned with appearances, and more focused on actually being present for her children. I still had not spoken to her. I was not ready. Maybe I never would be. And that was okay. Jason, according to Jennifer, who kept tabs on social media, had his engagement fall apart when his fiancée discovered the full extent of his involvement in Karen's schemes. He also lost his job when his employer found out he had been using company resources for personal harassment campaigns. The last Jennifer heard, he had moved to another state, trying to start over. I felt nothing about his downfall. No satisfaction, no vindication. Just a hollow awareness of how much damage people could do when they let their worst impulses win. But my life had blossomed in ways I could never have imagined during those dark 2 years of isolation. Emma and I had dinner with my parents every Sunday. My mother had taught Emma to make my grandmother's blueberry pancakes, and now Emma made them for me on lazy Saturday mornings. My father and I had started a tradition of hiking together on the first Saturday of every month, just us, talking about everything and nothing. I got promoted at work, a major jump that came with a significant raise and the opportunity to lead a division. My boss mentioned during the promotion conversation that I had become noticeably more confident in the past year, more willing to advocate for myself and my ideas. That was Emma's influence, and my family's renewed support, and my own hard-won understanding that I deserved to take up space in the world. Emma and I had started talking seriously about children. We were not trying yet, but we were planning. We talked about whether we wanted to try for biological kids, or adopt, or both. We talked about the kind of parents we wanted to be. We talked about bringing our future children to this cabin, teaching them the things my grandparents had taught me. One evening, in early September, I was sitting on the dock at the cabin, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and purple. Emma was inside making dinner, and I could hear her singing along to music playing from her phone. My parents were coming up the next day for the weekend. Derek was bringing my niece and nephew on Sunday for a barbecue. Life had fallen into a rhythm that felt sustainable, healthy, real. My phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer. Saw Karen at the grocery store today. She asked about you. Asked if you were doing okay. I told her you were. She smiled and said good. That is all she said. Just good. Thought you should know. I stared at the message for a long moment. 2 years ago, Karen had tried to destroy my life, had succeeded in stealing 2 years from me. 2 years of family connections I could never get back. Had tried to sabotage my marriage, my reputation, my inheritance. Had poisoned everyone against me out of jealousy and greed and whatever darkness had taken root in her heart. And now she was glad I was doing okay. It was not enough. It might never be enough, but it was something. A seed of humanity, however small. I did not respond to Jennifer's text. I just set the phone down and watched the sun continue its descent behind the mountains. Emma came out onto the dock, carrying 2 glasses of wine. She handed me one and sat beside me, our feet dangling over the water. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "Everything," I said. "Nothing. How we got here." Emma sipped her wine. "Are you happy?" "Yes," I said, and I meant it. Completely. Even with everything that happened, even with the pain and the loss and the betrayal. I am happy. "Good," Emma said simply. "You deserve to be happy." We sat in silence for a while, watching the light fade. Then I spoke again. "I have been thinking a lot about what I learned from all this, about what I would tell someone else going through something similar." Emma turned to look at me, curious. "Family is not just about blood," I began. "It is not about obligation or tradition, or who shares your DNA. Real family is about showing up. Real family is about seeing you, valuing you, celebrating your joy instead of resenting your success." Emma was my family, before my biological family remembered how to be. She chose me every day. That is what family is supposed to be. I took another sip of wine, gathering my thoughts. I learned that you cannot make yourself smaller to make other people comfortable. Karen wanted me to be less successful, less happy, less present, so she could feel better about her own life. And for 2 years, I internalized that. I started to believe maybe I was too much, too successful, too something. But that is poison. You cannot dim your own light to make someone else's darkness more bearable. Emma took my hand, squeezed it. "I learned about boundaries," I continued. "Real boundaries, not just saying no but enforcing it. My family needed to understand that what Karen did was not acceptable, that there were consequences. Not revenge, just natural consequences. She lied to everyone, manipulated everyone, tried to destroy my marriage. She lost her own marriage, her place in the family, people's trust. I did not make that happen. Her actions did. And that is okay. That is justice." The sky was almost fully dark now, the first stars beginning to appear. "I learned that forgiveness is not required," I said. "Everyone kept asking me when I would forgive Karen. My mother, my father, even some well-meaning friends. But forgiveness is not something I owe anyone, not even family. Maybe someday I will get there, maybe not. Either way, I am allowed to protect myself. I am allowed to say this person hurt me too badly, and I am not ready to let them close again. That does not make me bitter or angry. It makes me smart." Emma rested her head on my shoulder. "These are good lessons. The most important thing I learned," I said, "is that speaking up saves you. That Thanksgiving dinner was the hardest thing I ever did. Confronting Karen, showing everyone the truth, risking that they might not believe me or might choose her over me anyway. But I did it. I told the truth. I set the boundary. I demanded to be seen and valued. And yes, it hurt. It burned everything down for a while. My sister's marriage ended. Family relationships fractured. Things were messy and painful. But from those ashes, something real grew. A family based on honesty instead of pretense. Relationships based on genuine care instead of obligation. A life where I do not have to wonder if the people around me actually want me there." I turned to look at Emma directly. If someone out there is feeling invisible in their own family, if they feel like they do not matter, like they are always the afterthought, I would tell them to speak up. Tell the truth, even when it is terrifying. Set the boundary, even when it feels impossible. Demand to be seen and valued, or walk away from people who refuse to do it. Living invisible is not living, I continued. Living small, making yourself less so other people can feel more, hiding your happiness so others do not feel jealous, that is not a life. That is a slow death of the self. I almost lost years to someone else's insecurity. I do not want that to be anyone else's story. Emma kissed my cheek. "I am proud of you. For fighting for yourself. For fighting for us." The cabin door opened and my parents stepped out onto the porch. I had forgotten they had decided to come up tonight instead of tomorrow. My mother waved. My father called out asking if we wanted to join them for a nightcap by the fire. Emma and I stood up from the dock. We walked hand in hand back toward the cabin, toward the warm light spilling from the windows, toward the sound of my mother's laughter and my father's low voice, toward the family I had reclaimed and the family I had built. Before we went inside, I stopped and looked back at the lake one more time. The water was dark now, reflecting the emerging stars. Somewhere out there, Karen was living her own life, doing her own work, facing her own consequences. I hoped she found peace. I hoped she became someone her kids could be proud of. But that was her journey, not mine. My journey was here, in this cabin that now belonged to me and Emma, with these people who had proven they would choose me, support me, celebrate me, with the woman beside me who had been my anchor through the worst of it and my joy through the best of it. I deserved this. I deserved family who showed up. I deserved love without conditions. I deserved to be celebrated, not hidden. You deserve it too, whoever you are, wherever you are. If your family cannot see your worth, build your own family. If the people who should love you try to diminish you instead, step into the light anyway. The people who truly love you will follow. The ones who do not were never really there to begin with. Life is too short to live invisible. Life is too precious to waste on people who want you small. Speak your truth, set your boundaries, demand your space in the world. And if speaking that truth burns some bridges, let them burn. Real relationships can withstand honesty. Real love can survive boundaries. What cannot survive the truth was never real to begin with. Emma tugged my hand gently. "Come on," she said. "Your mom is making hot chocolate." I smiled and followed her inside, into the warmth, into the light, into the life I had fought for and won. The cabin door closed behind us. Through the windows, you could see us gathering around the fireplace. My father stoking the fire, my mother handing out mugs, Emma laughing at something someone said. Me, sitting in the center of it all, no longer invisible, no longer an afterthought, no longer hidden, finally, completely seen. So I want to ask you something. Have you ever felt invisible in your own family? Have you ever had to fight to be seen, to be valued, to be included? What did you do about it? How did you find your way back to yourself? Leave a comment below and share your story. You are not alone in this. So many people understand what it feels like to be overlooked, diminished, excluded by the people who should love you most. Your story matters, your experience matters, and maybe by sharing it, you will help someone else find the courage to speak up, to set boundaries, to demand better. If this story resonated with you, if it made you feel something, please hit that like button. It helps more people find these stories, more people who might need to hear that they deserve better, that they are not crazy for feeling hurt, that their feelings are valid. And subscribe to the channel if you have not already. There are more stories like this one. Stories about real people facing real challenges and finding their way through to the other side. Stories about standing up, speaking out, and reclaiming your life. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Maybe it is someone who feels invisible in their own family. Maybe it is someone struggling with a toxic relationship. Maybe it is just someone who needs a reminder that they deserve to be celebrated, not hidden. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here, for caring, for understanding. I hope it helped you in some way. I hope it reminded you that you matter, that your happiness matters, that your peace matters. Take care of yourselves. Set those boundaries. Speak your truth. And never, ever make yourself smaller for someone else's comfort. You deserve to be seen. You deserve to be celebrated. You deserve family who shows up. Until next time, take care.